Hey everyone, and welcome back to my web show, Coffee and Conversations. I am so happy that you are here, and I am thrilled about my guest for today's show. I am so excited to be interviewing Veronica Garnett. Veronica is a health at every size, fat positive, registered dietitian, and certified culinarian with over 17 years of experience in the food and nutrition field. For most of her career, Veronica has worked with marginalized and vulnerable populations, particularly Black and Latinx and LGBTQIA folks living with food insecurity, substance abuse, and mental health issues, as well as chronic diseases such as HIV/AIDS, heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, kidney disease, and eating disorders. Currently, in her virtual private practice and consulting business, Veronica supports plus-sized, larger-bodied, fat folks and developing a healthy relationship with food and their bodies. She also supports professionals in providing multiculturally competent, weight-inclusive, and social justice-informed care. In addition to her private practice, Veronica is a bit of a jack-a of all trades. She is the host of the forthcoming online cooking show, Diasporadical Kitchen, which aims to dismantle fat phobia, diet culture, and other systems of oppression while celebrating foods from the African diaspora. She is the co-founder of Reclaiming Our Plate, a dietitian collective-led community of Black folks critically examining and divesting from diet culture and its inherent anti-Blackness. Veronica is the founder of Black Adventuristas, an organization with the mission to support the well-being of Black women by connecting them to each other and to adventure through various experiences in their local communities and beyond. Veronica is also the vision and strategy leader for the Association for Size Diversity and Health, the organization that trademarked Health at Every Size, and aims to end weight discrimination in healthcare. On top of all of that, she is also training to become a certified death doula. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Veronica Garnett.
Hi, Dr.
Hi, Veronica. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show. When I thought about guests for the show, I thought about you immediately because I really, really am impressed by all that you are doing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Like when you asked to join, I'm like, I can't not join.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
There's a really good book that I recommend. Well, it's really dense and academic kind of book, but it's called Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina Strings. She is I believe a PhD sociologist in one of the schools out in California, but her book is about, it's the racial origins of fat phobia. And during colonialism and, the transatlantic slave trade, this is when race or the concept of race, when that was first
constructed,
developed or whatever by white, Europeans, they created these, hierarchies of bodies and people, and of course, including having white people at the top. And so fatness was often associated with Blackness, which was associated with being savage or inferior or whatever. So fat phobia or larger bodies were deemed you're in opposition to whiteness, and it was a way to uphold whiteness and keep white people at the top. And so that is so much a part of our society now. And it's so fat phobia is so intricately tied to anti-Blackness, you can't separate it. So so it definitely is a Western phenomenon, an American thing, but it's global, and it's
becoming global.
Far-reaching. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, major consequences, right? One of the things I was saying to you offline is that so many of my clients are now coming to me just because we're in month 10 of COVID, right? Nobody expected it to last this long, right? And some people, as you mentioned earlier, have turned to food to coping. Right. So because of that, many have lost some of their health and fitness regimes. Other people have started to consume foods that maybe they wouldn't have eaten in large quantities, etc. And I know that you are against dieting. So what would you do, right, as a dietitian to help people realign with, foods that are good for them, that are healthy for them during COVID?
Okay. Where to start with that? First, I want to say that we're all in the midst of this. It's a global pandemic. This is we're going through a collective trauma. There are people,
Yes.
I mean, just in the United States alone, we have over 400,000 people who have died. And each of those people had a life, had a family, had a circle of influence. So we are grieving, and this is a really hard time. People are losing jobs. Some people don't have enough food to eat, period.
That's right.
And so the first thing that I would want folks to know is or I would just recommend that people extend themselves a whole lot of grace. A whole lot of grace and compassion, and to really not worry about that number on the scale. It's number one. I mean, yes, if you've been stuck at home, or if you've been lucky to stay at home and work from home, and you have less risk of getting COVID. Of course, if you're not as physically active, maybe you're eating a little bit different. It's okay. It's okay for our bodies to change.
Yes.
It's okay for our bodies to for us to gain weight. I know we in our society that's oh God, that's the worst thing in the world, but it's really not. It's really not. And so, inside of that, if you notice that maybe you're eating more of I call them fun foods versus junk food or whatever, because I do believe all foods fit. There are no one thing of diet culture is that it moralizes foods. So
yes.
Some foods are good and some foods are bad, and then if I eat this food, then I'm good. If
you're good,
I'm bad.
Right? That's right.
You got to get out of that black and white thinking about food. There is no good and bad food. There's just food, and all food is nourishing in some way. Even emotional eating is not. I try not even to demonize that, but I think it is information. I have one client who binged or had a binge episode, and I had them look at all of the different ways that you can cope with whatever. It's you can learn to sit with your feelings. You could binge eat. You could do something really harmful, or use alcohol or something like that. What are the pros and cons of all of these? And you get to choose. And this is just, it's feedback for you, information, and it's an invitation to be curious. But it's not a reason to beat yourself up or whatever if you eat a certain way, if you do something. It's just, okay, be curious. And if you notice that, okay, when I eat this way, I feel bloated and I feel sick to my stomach, or I feel guilty or whatever. Well, I would explore the guilt. There's no, guilt really has no...
It has no place. That's right.
Guilt and shame, how does that doesn't really promote health.
I always say those are wasted emotions. Guilt and shame does not help. It only hurts and harms.
Yeah, it's you can't uneat the food and just do away with that if you can, guilt and shame. But just explore, and then you can make gentle, I talk about gentle nutrition with my clients. For instance, so I'm thinking about this one particular client who had a binge and binged on, candy and chips and things like that. And I'm okay, well, it could be that there's a restrict binge cycle. So you could have restricted, not eating enough earlier in the day, or maybe you worked out the day before and just didn't eat enough. And so then you overdo it. So one thing to do is just, I would say just eat consistently and eat regularly, so that you don't get super hungry, or you don't but it could also be that, you might be missing out on some micronutrients. If you're just having the fun foods. So you can still have your fun foods, but then just add more, add a fruit and vegetable here, add a calcium-rich food here. So you're getting all of those micronutrients, you're getting everything that you need. So I would just, I guess, to maybe sum all of that up, is to go back to, of course, compassion and grace. But also another thing is, so you have to look at health as more than just, it's not, our health is made up by so many factors, not just what we eat and how we move. And your health is also your mental health and wellness. So you have to think of that holistic picture. And if like being unhinged around food and being stressed about that, worrying about your size, like that doesn't contribute to health. And we have to think about that too. So yeah, just look at the big picture and like take care of yourself in ways that feel good. And yeah, compassion and grace during a pandemic. We're in a panini press. We're in a pandemonium. Like,
yes,
yeah,
it's serious,
yeah,
and it's been for a while.
And I also feel like if you have survived, like you've done enough. Like, so what if you gain a few pounds or a lot of pounds or whatever? Like, you have survived. And kudos to you. You know?
I love what you said, because I think that the focus has to change, right? We can't get to a place where food is supposed to be enjoyable. It's supposed to be nourishing. It's supposed to be about community. We talked about that, right? Food is also about moods. Food is also about spending time with those you love, connection. It's so many things. How would you implore us to still embody and have some of those things during a pandemic? Like, how can we still have that sense of community that we usually have around food in a pandemic when we're in a virtual world now? What suggestions would you have for that?
What suggestions would I? So I have to say, I've been so fortunate to like be sheltering in place, staying at home with family. So this has been, and I know that you're asking for like a, not just my personal situation.
It's okay. It's helpful.
But yeah, for people who are with family, I'd say, yeah, definitely enjoy like that. It's a blessing. It can be stressful, I know, but it could also be like a blessing. Like, I know I've been able to cook more and like sit down and have a meal with my family like every day, which didn't happen beforehand. But as far as connection, I feel like there are ways through like Zoom and these virtual platforms to still like connect, or like maybe you meet up with your girlfriends if you have like a girlfriend's weekend, or like just get together on Zoom for a Saturday brunch.
Like that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, like we just celebrated my aunt's birthday and like invited people from all over the country. Like, and with Zoom, it's like when we could celebrate in person, you know, only people who were in that physical space could gather. But like, it is kind of nice to have people from all over who can like, chime in, like, you know, you can still sing happy birthday and have cake and do all of that. So I would just, recommend, trying to like being intentional about connecting with community and family and friends, and like including food. Like, food can be a part of that. And yes, I have to like amplify what you said about food is supposed to be pleasurable.
Yes,
it is supposed to be pleasurable. Even like eating nourishing or healthy food, whatever. Like, everything
should still be pleasurable.
Yes, I think we've talked about this, you know, offline about like hedonism, but like hedonism is a pleasure. Like, pleasure, I say that pleasure is my ethos. So like, you should be miserable, or you shouldn't dislike the food that you are eating. Like, what's the point?
What's the point? I love that. Any tips that you would give to us in order to address others who you think are being really impacted by fat phobia or shame or guilt, or just any of that? Anything that would be really helpful for us to tell friends or family that may come to us?
Yeah. I would just say that it's so pervasive and so insidious. So sometimes people are like, is that really fat phobia? Or like, am I really experiencing, like, is this really like a system of oppression operating, or something? Is something just wrong with me in my fat? And so I would like encourage people to like critically examine like the systems that we're swimming in, that are caught like that they were implemented to like keep us in this hierarchy, keep us in check, keep us in place, and it causes us so much harm. So I would just say, like, if you're experiencing fat phobia, that is real, and that it's really hurtful and harmful, and it exists. So yeah, your experience is valid. The other thing I would say is, I think especially, you know, we just got through the holiday season. And like, I know that's a really triggering time for people. Maybe like if people did gather for the holidays and ate, like, you know, people can say pretty messed up things about bodies and sizes, and like what you're eating, what's on your plate and all of that. And one of the things that I would suggest is like definitely working on boundaries. Boundaries,
Yes.
Cutbacks. Like boundaries on like, I prefer if we not talk about, I don't want to talk about keto at the table.
Mm-hmm,
I don't want to talk about like, oh my God, I'm so fat, or I'm going to go on this diet, I'm going to do WW or whatever. Like, let's not have those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So the boundaries are really important to protect your space, your emotional energy, like all of that. So that's so important for people in larger bodies. What else could I say? I feel like there's more there. If I think of it, I'll share.
Okay.
Oh, another thing. Well, yeah, you can.
Please go.
For the dietitian. So if you want to, I would definitely like find community, find community with other fat folks.
I love that.
I've been on Clubhouse a lot, and particularly in like Black fat femme spaces, and it's been like great just to have that community, just to know that you're not alone and to get that support. And also, but if you are struggling with like food and body image issue, there are a lot of dietitians. Like there's me, I have other colleagues who subscribe to the same kind of philosophy about like bodies and food and weight and like all of that. So definitely there's support out there. So you don't have to do any of this alone. It's too hard to do it alone. So we're here with arms wide open to support.
Thank you so much for that, Veronica. I really, really appreciate having you on the show today. I have to have you back because we have to talk about cooking as well, since you are an amazing, amazing chef. So I definitely want to hear about that and your cooking show. Any final words for our listeners today?
Any final words? Oh.
What do you want to leave with people?
What do I want people to leave with? Oh, this is a good... You're gonna edit, like you're gonna do some light editing, right?
Yes.
What is it that I want to leave? Or what do I want to? Yeah, parting words. Okay, well, I said this on a podcast that I was on. It just aired yesterday, but I filmed it like over the summer.
Okay.
I ended that podcast by saying that like you're right where you're supposed to be, like you're right where you're supposed to be on this journey. It's like I think we get all caught up thinking about where we're supposed to be, or like the way things are supposed to look and feel. And I'm supposed to like have this, when you were talking about, people's wellness plan or fitness and eating plans and all of that, like if it fell off, it's all good. Like if it's like wherever you are right now, like it's okay. You're okay. You're right where you're supposed to be. And you can always choose something different. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you, Veronica. This was super helpful. I hope you guys got a bit of all of Veronica's great tips, all her great information, and I will be having her back on the show soon. Veronica, thank you so much for educating us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Letitia.
You're welcome.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.